The rain had not stopped for 3 days. In the heart of the old quarter, where the stone streets sank into mud and silence, a boy wandered aimlessly. His name was Arin, a 20-year-old drifter with no place to call home. He lived between questions and half-remembered dreams, carrying nothing but a restless curiosity that often drew him where others feared to go. He was no adventurer, no scholar, just a boy with too many questions and too little to answer them. Questions about why dreams felt heavier than waking, why he sometimes recalled places he had never seen, and why, every time he walked past the ruins of the old temple, something inside whispered his name. That day, when the storm tore loose a section of the temple wall, Arin followed curiosity where common sense would have fled. He slipped through shattered stone and mossy pillars into the dark belly of the ruins. It was there, hidden behind a fallen altar, that he found it. A door. It was no ordinary door. Iron wrought, sealed with carvings of eyes and ink stains. It looked as if it belonged not to the temple, but to something much older, something that did not want to be found, and yet, the lock had broken with age. Arin pressed. The door groaned like a wounded beast, and a draft of cold air spilled out, carrying the smell of dust, ink, and time itself. He stepped inside. The chamber beyond was vast, stretching farther than his eyes could see. Towering shelves reached into shadows so deep, even the light of his lantern could not pierce them. Books, hundreds, thousands, perhaps more, lined the shelves, each bound in cracked leather, their spines etched with names. A library, but not the kind scholars spoke of. This one breathed. When Arin moved, he swore the books shifted, tilting ever so slightly, as if they had been waiting for him. He pulled one at random. Its cover was soft with age, its pages yellow and trembling. On the first line, written in an elegant, unbroken hand, was a name, Lira of the Southern Market. Arin frowned. He had never heard the name. Yet, when he traced the letters, he felt something stir at the edge of his thoughts, as if the story inside already belonged to him. Curiosity gnawed. He sat upon the cold stone floor, lantern flickering beside him, and began to read, and as he read, the library seemed to lean closer. The words upon the page bled into his thoughts, soft and steady, like the voice of someone long forgotten. Lira was born beneath a sickly dawn, her first cry thin as thread. From the start, her breath came shallow. The midwife told her mother she would not live to see the spring, yet spring came, and she survived. Summer followed, and she still clung to life. But the cost was frailty, each step a struggle, each cough a storm in her chest. Her father sold fruit in the southern market, where voices rose like songbirds and spices painted the air. He prayed for her health. He prayed until his knees bled raw. But gods do not answer prayers whispered from the poor. By her 10th year, the sickness worsened. By her 12th, her body weakened to the edge of death. And at dawn tomorrow, her story will end. Arin's hands trembled as he lowered the book. This was no story, no tale told for comfort or amusement. This was a life written in full, from first breath to final. And the words felt true, too true. His mind raced. Could it be a girl somewhere, breathing her last this very night? If so, how could her story already be written here? He turned the page. The lines ahead were blank, untouched by ink, as if the world had not yet reached them, as if the rest waited to be written. The thought burned inside him. If fate could be recorded, could it also be changed? He licked his lips, reading aloud from the page, his voice unsteady. But the girl did not die at dawn. Her chest filled with air once more, her breath strong as the sea wind. She opened her eyes to greet a life she had been denied. The words echoed strangely in the cavernous library. His lantern flickered, shadows bending toward the book. For an instant he swore the ink upon the page glistened, rewriting itself in front of him. Then silence. He snapped the book shut, his heart pounding. Somewhere, far from that ruined temple, the world shifted. In a small, candlelit room in the southern market, a girl's chest rose with new strength. Where moments before breath had failed, air now rushed freely. Her eyes fluttered open. Her mother gasped. Her father wept, clutching her fragile hand, whispering prayers of disbelief. Lira lived, back in the library. Arin staggered to his feet. A strange heat pulsed in his skull. His thoughts swirled disjointed, slipping through his grasp like water. He tried to picture something familiar. His home, the streets he walked, the face of his breath caught, the face of his mother. It was gone. The memory dissolved, leaving only emptiness where warmth should have been. He dropped to his knees, clutching his head. The library loomed silent, indifferent. The shelves seemed taller now, the shadows deeper, as if mocking his pain. He looked at the book again, horror dawning. It was not free. To change a fate was to sacrifice memory. The library did not give it, traded, and Arin had just paid the first price. Arin remained kneeling, breath ragged, his lantern swaying on the cold floor. The light caught the book's cover Lira of the southern marketers, though mocking him with its quiet victory. A girl lived, and yet, in exchange, part of him had been carved away. He pressed his palms to his eyes, trying to force an image of his mother, her hands, her voice, anything. Nothing came. It was not simply forgetting it, was as though she had never existed at all. The weight of the loss hollowed his chest. Slowly, he stood. His legs felt unsteady, as though the ground itself resisted him. Around him, the endless shelves stretched into the dark, filled with names. Names of strangers, names of lives. Each one a temptation, each one a snare. He clutched the book tighter, whispering to himself, "No more, I won't open another." But the library was not silent. At first it was subtle, the creak of timber, the hush of a page turning, though no hand touched it. Then came the whispers. Faint, countless, layered over one another. Voices too soft to understand, yet urgent, insistent. They rose from the shelves like breath, filling the air, seeping into Arin's skin. He stumbled back, lantern raised, eyes darting through the dark. "Who's there?" he called. His voice cracked. The whispers ceased. Only the echo of his question lingered. His pulse thundered. Every instinct told him to run, to flee the library and never return. And yet his gaze dropped back to the shelves. Thousands of lives, waiting. Each spine bore a name. Each name, a story already ending, or yet to be rewritten. How many could he save? How many could he undo? The thought clawed at him, desperate, poisonous. But then came the cold realization. Each act would strip another piece of him. If he gave in, what would remain of Arin at all? The lantern's flame sputtered, drawing his eyes, and there, just beyond its reach, he saw it, a shadow. It stood between the shelves, tall and still, darker than the dark around it. No face, no form, only outline. Watching, Arin froze. The hair on his arms rose. He blinked. The shadow was gone. The silence pressed in once more, heavy and suffocating. He swallowed, forcing himself to move, clutching the lantern close. He placed Lira's book back where it belonged, the spine sliding perfectly into place. For an instant he swore he felt the shelf exhale, satisfied. "I can't stay here," he whispered to himself. "Not tonight." But even as he turned toward the iron door, he knew the truth. The library would not let him go so easily already. It had its hooks in him. Already, it had begun to feed. Arin's steps echoed down the endless hall of shelves, the lantern trembling in his grip. He didn't dare look back, not at the whispering spines, not at the space where the shadow had stood. His only focus was the iron door, the one fragile link back to the world he knew. The air seemed heavier with each step, as though the library itself pressed down on him, reluctant to let him go. When he reached the door, he shoved hard. For a terrifying moment it resisted, the hinges groaning like a beast in pain. Then, with a shuddering crack, it yielded, spilling him back into the ruined temple. Cold night air rushed over him. The storm had passed. Only the soft drizzle of rain remained, pattering on broken stone. He stumbled out into the open, gulping the damp air like a drowning man. For a long while he sat on the temple steps, the lantern dim beside him, his thoughts tangled in knots. He had saved a girl, that much he knew, but what had it cost? His mother, her face, her voice, her present scorn, and yet the memory of Lira lingered fresh and sharp, though he had never met her. It was as though the library had chosen which memories to trade, which threads to cut. He shivered. The temptation clawed at him already. If one life could be saved with so little effort, what of the others? The sick, the lost, the broken. How many names filled those shelves, waiting for his hand? He clenched his fists. No, he wouldn't return. He couldn't. But deep down, he knew the truth. Curiosity would not let him rest. And the library, whatever it was, would not be forgotten. Morning came. The streets of the market bustled with life again. Vendors shouting, children running, the scent of fresh bread and spice thick in the air. Arin drifted through the crowd, feeling strangely out of place, as though he'd stepped into someone else's dream. Then he saw her, a girl with thin arms and pale skin, walking slowly beside her father. Her chest rose steady, her breath unbroken, her eyes bright with a light that should not have been Lira, alive. Her father clutched her hand tightly, as though afraid she would vanish if he let go. Her mother walked close behind, tears shining in her eyes. The sight of them, whole and smiling, struck Arin's chest with both relief and dread. He had done this. He had reached into the threads of fate and rewoven them. But the cost still gnawed. He tried again to summon the image of his mother, nothing. Only a void where love once lived. And then, as he turned away from the market, something froze his blood. In a shop window, reflected faintly in the glass, stood a shape behind him, a tall shadow, featureless, watching. He spun. Nothing. Only the crowd. But deep inside, Arin knew. The library was not done with him, and neither were its shadows. W84 next part.